So, today I got to fix a little mess up I did the other day. I just installed an accu-sump in this, and an accu-sump is basically a big canister. Mine's a 3-quart one that has a little piston in it, and on one side you pressurize it with pressurized air, and on the other oil comes into it. So the engine basically pushes oil into it, and then the air pushes the oil back into the engine when it's needed. So let's say you're blowing donuts in your Subaru and you haven't checked your oil in 7 months, like most Subaru's owners, and the oil that's left in your oil pan sloshes away from the pickup, and the oil system pulls air, and now you've cooked your bearings because they didn't have any oil to it. And then you go, the next thing of course is you go on the internet and you say how Subaru sucks, and completely overlook the fact that you didn't check your oil for 7 months and blew up the motor and blame everybody else. Anyways, so this accu-sump kind of guards against that. When it has that oil starvation, there's pressurized oil in this tank that will be pushed into the engine, and it'll feed those bearings for a couple moments until that oil pressure can come back from the pickup. So that's why I want to go ice racing with this. I do want to blow donuts in the parking lot, so I wanted to have that little bit of protection. But I also checked my oil. Anyways, but apparently I checked my oil wrong. With this accu-system setup, you have to check your oil with the engine up to operating temperature. You probably should anyways, I just never thought about it, but especially with this. Because you have that tank with a piston in it and pressure, 80 psi worth of cold oil will push that cylinder farther. Yes, hi Otto, I see. It'll push that piston farther in the cylinder than 50 psi at operating temperature. So what I did was I went and I had a cold engine. I opened the valve. I put in what I thought I needed for oil. I turned over the engine, primed everything, and then fired it up. At idle, when the engine was cold, it was making 80 psi, and it filled the whole system, the accu-sump system. And it pushed that piston all the way back. And what that did is it filled that tank most of the way with oil to 80 psi. I then shut off the engine, shut my valve. I then checked my oil, and it was right spot on. Cool, all right. I'm gonna let it warm up to temperature. So I bring the car outside, I let it warm up to temperature, and as it warms up, the oil gets thinner, and the pressure drops. So the pressure drops at idle. At least for this engine, it was like 45 to 50 psi. Well, now in that tank, at 80 psi, the piston's over here. Well, at 50 psi, it's like over here. That difference, that oil had to go somewhere. That oil got pushed back into the engine. So when I got it up to temperature, I shut the valve on the accu-sump. It's still shut at about 50 psi. Well, that oil that was pushed back into the engine is still in the engine. I shut it off. I checked my oil, and I am way overfilled. So I'm like, crap. So what I got to do is I got to drain the oil. I don't want to take it out. I don't want to take the drain plug out because then I ruin the crush washer and it's going to leak all over. And I might just drain the whole engine of oil, and I don't want to do that because it's brand new oil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the filter off, and I'm going to drain out the necessary bit of oil from that. I'll take the filter off, dump it out, put it back on, crank the engine over without firing it, let it fill up if I still need to, take it off again, drop it out like that. And then when I'm done, I'm going to put a brand new filter on it. You should do that after an accusump install anyways, just in case there was anything in the lines. It's probably in your filter and you want to get rid of that. So put a new filter on it and run it. So that's my plan. Get that oil drained out. Then I'm going to take it back outside, fire it up, let it run up to operating temperature, then open that valve. Everything will equalize, and I'll be able to check my oil then. I think my theory is that it'll be right where it needs to be. So I'm gonna drain that oil, get going. Okay, so we got everything drained out of it. We got it to the proper level, and put a new filter on. I always like to just kind of put the mileage, who did it, what date on the bottom of the filter, so I know. I have a horrible memory, so might as well. I do 540. They call for 530. Always do 540 in a Subaru motor. I don't even know why they call it why they call for 530, but it's what my tuners always told me. So run it, and then pre-fill your oil filter before you put it on the engine. That way, when you're first cranking, it doesn't start dry because it has to fill this whole filter. It's already got oil in it. So I'm gonna do that, get it back up, fire it up, check the level. Okay, so we got everything back together, the new filter on, we're ready to go. I'm going to now fire it up, and I'll let it run for a few seconds, get everything up to the oil pressure up, and then I'll shut it off. We'll check the oil. We'll give it a second to the oil to drain back into the pan, especially with it being cold. That's going to take us a few more seconds than if it was warm. That way we don't check it and be like, yeah, we're good, and then it's overfilled again. It looks like we're right where we want to be. Sweet. Okay, so now we'll bring it back outside, let it warm up again, and check the oil again. Open that valve. It should be good. Alright, so hopefully that was a little bit informative. Hopefully you learned something. And if you want to see a video of the accusump install, leave it in the comments, and I can put something together that basically just goes over how I put it together and the components of everything. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.